And now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to listen to Reece and Dan on the Ankle Pick Pod.
Welcome back, Ankle Pickers. We are here with none other than the best panel in all of podcasting. And I'm going to start with our host slash moderator slash the guy that keeps this thing ticking, Country Club Kobe. What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Sports on all night. Talking with YouTube bozos right now.
Yep. The bozos parts is definitely the best. And contrary to everyone's popular belief, Country Club Kobe has a couple teams in the fantasy playoffs. Fantasy football, that is. So I'm shocked by that. And then Mr. Tardy today, DanKwagers on Twitter.
What up?
How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's freaking hot in this studio. You might see some beads of sweat running down my face, and it's surprisingly not because I'm sweating out and heavyweight over or something like that. It's just freaking hot in here.
Speaking of heavyweights overs, we could recap maybe the worst bet of our lives, but that'll come up in just 1 second. Before we get there, if you want to see the beaded sweat on Dan's forehead, go over to YouTube. We've been posting clips up there. Every subscriber helps, obviously. So
please please subscribe. It's free. Yeah. Go down there, hit the buttons.
If you prefer audio, do your thing, but video's where it's at. All right. Now let's get into the meat of this. We're going to start with UFC Orlando. No, we're going to start with UFC 282. I don't know why it's UFC in Orlando. UFC 282 recap. And there will be a lot here. So I'm going to try to weave my way around a lot of this shit because there's a lot to talk about. And Kobe gets mad if we spend too much time, and you can't piss off Country Club. Okay, let's start with Cameron Saman. Finishes Stephen Koslow in pretty good fashion after having an illegal knee and a point taken away. The reason why I want 50K, Kobe's got it. 50K for the young gun, and that's why I want to mention it. He's 21 years old. Dan, I was saying to people that I was watching with, I believe he'll be a champion one day. What's your thoughts on that take?
I think it's hot as hell, but that's why you're here then listening to the Ankle Pick Pod for these hot takes from Reece. And Reece has been on it before. I mean, you remember Reece Pulver was banging the drum for Marab before he'd even signed for the UFC. So Reece knows his prospects.
Marab. Yeah, that and I get that from Dan. But the thing with Cameron Saman that impressed me, Stephen Koslow was grappling the shit out of him, and he never panicked. His scrambles were always, I don't want to say he was one move ahead of Koslow, and we can't gauge because how good is Koslow in the grand scheme of things, but I felt very comfortable watching him inside those scrambles. And then obviously on the feet, he's very talented. But my biggest takeaway is this kid is 21 years old. Insane to me. And we're actually going to get to someone even younger. So I'm going to mention this fight because I'm pretty sure a bonus might be attached. TJ Brown. Yeah.
50K.
50K for TJ Brown. Arm triangle over Eric Silva. Dan, James Krause, the aforementioned Voldemort. What camp was he supposed to be in? TJ Brown's?
Or
Eric Silva?
Yeah, I think so.
TJ Brown, maybe? Because that's always going to throw a wrench into these ones.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Billy Quarantillo, KO, standing KO, punches, Alexander Hernandez.
50K.
50K well-deserved. Billy got split open bad in the first. And Dan, I think your breakdown was Billy is going to put it on, look for a live bet spot.
Yes, sir. And it was up to plus 200 after that first round. I was sitting there with Kobe and I said, this is the spot. This is the spot. You jump on Billy Q, 30 minutes, or not 30 minutes, 3 minutes later, Billy Q's finishing him.
And what's so crazy is our punchline for the podcast is it pays to listen. Well, it also pays just to be on the panel up here because I got plus 200 that in between round one over on DraftKings due to your breakdown. But I think the big takeaway here, Billy Q, durable, is an exciting fighter. But Alexander Hernandez, would he be better off at 55? Where do you go next if you're Alexander Hernandez? Because I I think if he got cut and found himself on the regional scene, he would dominate. I think he's still very talented. But, I mean, in his last 6 fights.
You know where he'd fit in really well is on that PFL roster.
Ooh, he would. He could make a run.
He'd be a great matchup for guys like Bubba Jenkins and Brendan Loughnane and Chris Wade. He'd fit right in. That'd be a great spot.
That would be a great spot for him. We'll tune in on his career. He might go back up to 55. Will obviously it'll be in news and notes if he does get a pink slip. Chris Curtis, man, I forgot how many finishes there were. Left
50K.
50K, well deserved. This one was crazy.
We can keep doing the Kobe 50K alert, but I think Dana said that every finish got a bonus.
Is this
That's
factual? We're still doing
plus a fight of the night.
We're still doing
had a finish, so I'll get there.
We're still doing the 50K, but Chris Curtis had this check left hook that landed straight on the nose, right on the button. Buckley fell, finished it off. And this one surprised me, Dan, because I didn't bet it, but I leaned Buckley. I really did. This one kind of came out of a surprise for me. Chris Curtis, PFL veteran, who I believe, 1-3 in the PFL, gets signed on a super short notice to fight for the UFC, and has just, he is a new man. Phil Hawes defeated, Brennan Allen defeated, Adolfo Vieira defeated, and now he adds Joaquin Buckley to his hit list. It's impressive what this 35-year-old's doing. I do not want to sell that short. Round of applause to Chris Curtis.
Yeah, the one thing that surprised me here was this. I was a little bit more leaning the Curtis side, and I was surprised by his output. He, for me, lost the first one for sure. And until he really landed that straight left, I thought he was losing the fight. I was impressed from Buckley.
Yeah, from Buckley?
Impressed from Buckley, for the minute and a half or whatever, round and a half. I keep jumbling up my times here.
Well, it just shows it's a dangerous game, man. Anyone can get caught. Edmund Shabazian back in the win column.
50K.
50K. And what's crazy about this one that I want to mention is, and I know Kobe's going to probably touch on in news notes, Dolce did get the pink slip. Lugiambula is gone. But Edmund Shabazian trained with Ronda Rousey's camp. And this is his first fight after the switch. He now fights at Extreme Couture, I think.
Yep. Yes.
And
confirmed.
And he did go up against a bunch of killers. Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov is ridiculous competition. But to get back in that win column as a 25-year-old, I really like what I saw. This felt really good. As a fan of Edmund, it was in a couple of my parlays. I think yours as well.
Definitely.
But this felt good. From a fan of the sport, it's good to see a guy who's been beaten up, been beaten down, get back on that winning track.
And it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be really cool in 4 or 5 fights to look back on that losing streak and what he learned as such a young fighter. This is another guy who I think we could see holding gold.
Before this performance, I would have said, I don't know, has he gone on a Dominic Reyes type skid? But after how he looked against a very powerful Lugiambula, it's definitely trending in the right direction. So this one I'm scared to recap because it's so fucking embarrassing for us, the ankle pickers. But Jairzinho, Biggie Boy Rosenstruik, KO TKOs Chris Daukaus in 23 seconds. I was on over 1.5. Dan was on over 1.5. I was on fight to start round 2. And the only thing I have to say about this one is the Daukaus brothers are killing us the last couple weeks. Brutal.
They have been a family that's been really hard to read. Ultimately, we've been right the whole time when we said from the beginning that they were both trash. But yeah, they're costing us. And so I will say that they're heavyweights. I mean, we knew that it could go at any moment. I just didn't expect it to be one of the first.
50K to Biggie Boy.
Well deserved. But the thing about these overs that Danny and I find ourselves on is the big heavyweights overs, you get plus money on them such a high percentage of the time. And the first round, more often than not, can be spent just patty caking, feeling out range because of how dangerous they are. This one went horribly wrong. This one was embarrassing. Long term, though, I do still love those plays. 18-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. defeats Jay Perrin via rear naked choke. 50K is going to go a long way for him, I'm assuming, Kobe.
Towards that minivan for his mom.
Boom. 50K for Raul Rosas Jr. And I believe Kobe, if you don't follow us on Twitter, it's a must. Kobe with the most savage tweet. Rosas Jr. caught some strays here. I believe the tweet went something along the lines of, Rosas Jr. is the real deal, but he has a brutal combination of English and looks.
I will say, though, the combination of his wrestling and his top pressure, that'll take him fucking a long way in this division.
And what's crazy, too, they mentioned on the broadcast was this kid's not even done growing yet. He's very strong for 35 as is, very strong. But the fact that if you really think about it, like he hasn't fully matured as a human being is crazy to think about. 18
Also, Jay
old.
Perrin's trash.
I like Jay Perrin. He got into it with Jay Perrin was very nice, entertained our Twitter spat a little bit. I recommended a movie. He liked to tweet, quoted said movie. Nice guy, Jay Perrin. Hopefully he gets one more fight because Raul Rosas Jr.
Yeah, because I can't stop making money fading him now.
You're a bastard. Charlie is a bastard, man. Okay. Now we're on to the main card, and this is where it gets real. Ilia Topuria.
50K.
And Kobe, I'm going to give you the floor a little longer because this was the ankle lock of the week at minus.
It's a candidate for bet of the year on this podcast.
145. Great candidate.
And we will have that category in our year wrap up and in our award show. This probably will be nominated.
As it should. But go over the ankle lock game and statistics for us, Kobe, because this one, Ilia Topuria finishing Bryce Mitchell on the ground via arm triangle, flawless performance out of Ilia Topuria. What does that bring us to?
Brings us to positive 48.5 units, 16-3 over the span of the game. Second place is at 37.47. So we've got a healthy, 11-point lead, 11.03 over second place. And it all comes down to the last week. We're going to have to avoid a loser.
Yeah, he's going to be throwing a Hail Mary out there. And we just need to not do too high a juice. It's
I've heard some rumblings that both second and third place are taking Costa against Amir Albazi. They're like the plus 350.
That makes me feel
but
good.
It's just rumblings. It's just rumblings.
Yeah, so we'll be on that. But Kobe, one more time for the audience. Did you say 16-3? Up
16-3.
Up 48 point something units?
16-3.
That means nothing to me.
And those three, two of the three are bad bets. I mean, we're talking the Daukus bet. We're talking.
I was just saying, which a lot of them are it forces our hands because we've looked at each other and been like, there is no bet on this card for us that we love. But we
lost our friend against
Josh Friend was the worst bet of the.
Bruno Silva against I don't even remember who.
Silva's a dumb.
Those all three really terrible bets.
Yeah.
But the other 16 were damn good.
Sharp as attack, this group. But Ilia Topuria advances to 13-0. Bryce Mitchell 15-1, kind of 15-2. But man, dude, I think featherweights are shitting their pants to fight Ilia Topuria. So well.
Sorry, Kobe. It's taking me a second to process that. Tresean Gore, Fremd, and Daukus were the three fighters we lost on.
No, Tresean Gore beat Fremd.
Oh, okay.
Bruno Silva.
I was going to say the collective skill. Oh, Bruno Silva. Still, the collective skill level of all of those guys is like a big old pink slip.
Yeah, we got flexed on that. And it was just our hand being forced. Never once were one of those bets where Danny and I are clamoring at the jaw like we were for Topuria. It's that we had to have one for that card. But we're beating a dead horse here. Anything you want to add on either of these gentlemen? Topuria, Mitchell. Mitchell, I think, looked outclassed. Outside.
Completely.
Strength on Topuria was crazy.
Topuria just showed a complete all-around domination. Dismantle. This was the 3Ds. This was damage, duration, dominance.
Oh yeah.
This was a fun fight to watch as an Ilya Topuria fan.
It was, and I'm dying to see who he gets next. Who it might be coming up. Dricus Du Plessis versus Darren Till. Du Plessis guts it out. Darren Till, I don't want to say it, but might have got caught quitting.
50K both ways here, fight of the night.
Interesting. Well, so
that is interesting.
Yeah, the news notes here is Darren Till thinks he tore his ACL. Du Plessis basically 10-8 him in the first brutally. Gassed himself out. Darren Till got a 10-9 in the second.
Darren Till was a pretty big live favorite midway through that second. Kobe and I were looking at that thinking it was absolutely ridiculous.
That's insane to think, especially after getting 10-8. I guess they basically were betting he's going to get the finish. But Darren Till hurt his knee, and then he basically like pulled himself into mount. It was really weird. Like Darren Till fell back and pulled Du Plessis into mount, turned around, and then basically before the choke was even under the chin, he tapped. So look, like I don't know what Darren Till's next move is. I really don't. He looked lost in the scrambles again.
You know what he should do
He
is
said he was going to take the time away.
what he should do is go and spend some time with a guy like, I don't know, maybe like a Dagestani fighter, like
But he
Hamzat. If he goes and spends time with like a guy like Hamzat, maybe he can like refine his wrestling skills and maybe look like some sort of semblance of like, maybe knows what he's doing at all.
That's what he should been though. I don't know. Darren Till, one of the promising, I think he's going to be on one of the all-time lists of promising guys that just fall from grace.
Dude, remember that quote during his run where he was like, I'm going to be the first 3-division champ?
Yeah. And he said, like, I'm going to be the best striker the UFC's ever seen. Yeah. I honestly feel bad for the guy, though. I really do. He had a lot of talent, and he's just been beaten up. Santiago Ponzinibbio KO'd Alex Morono. Cue up
Last
Kobe.
bonus, 50K.
And Ponzinibbio was down 2-0.
Down on scorecards, too.
Unbelievable overhand right. Disgusting. Puts out Morono on short notice. I guess the way I look at it is Morono, dog, way to take the fight, will always be around. Ponzinibbio, 36, still has power.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely
and Morono showed how tough he is. And yeah. I don't mean tough as in like he ate a lot of shots. I mean a tough opponent to beat. He gets in your face. He doesn't give you space. He's going to outvalue you. And he's never going to stop. You kind of have to put his lights out to win. Which
is the type of guy you want, especially on these short notice catchweight bouts. He was ready to go. And he was always ready, came in, great performance. Hats off to Alex Morono. Okay. Co-main event, Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon. If you listened to our video on YouTube or caught last week's episode, I was very vocal about the fact that Jared Gordon, in my opinion, is the better fighter. Jared Gordon, in my opinion, will not be subbed because his grappling, he's a black belt in his own right. I said Jared Gordon is going to win, but if it goes to the scorecard, something sketchy might happen. Paddy Pimblett's their prize. Well, Paddy Pimblett won the unanimous decision 29-28, but it is being called by Ariel Helwani, the worst decision the sport's ever seen. It's been called by, there was scorecards came up from media. I think it was like 30 scorecards. 29 of them scored it for Jared Gordon with one sole guy on Paddy. And I actually had a friend who was in the arena that night and said when Paddy got the decision, everyone in the audience knew he lost and was booing. Sheer shock.
So I've never seen someone walk into the octagon with the entire arena behind them and walk out with absolutely no one rooting for them more after winning a fight than Paddy Pimblett just
insane. Asterisk around winning. But so my question to you two, and I really want both of you to answer on this, was there foul play? The
really tough.
Guys were in the arena. Dana White was standing next to them for the decision, kind of indicated that they'll be all right. Joe's face was utter disgust in the actual octagon. I have always been under the opinion that the UFC has the utmost integrity. Dana has slammed boxing for its lack thereof of integrity. But you get the Sean O'Malley decision. You now get this Paddy Pimblett decision. Unanimous. Each judge had 2 different rounds scored for Paddy. This is the first time I felt fraud.
It's really hard to say that. I know that there's a lot of investigations going on right now, and more so than ever. I think even than the very beginning, the credibility of this sport is at question, which sucks. And it sucks that you and I, as huge fans of the sport, are questioning it. But at some point, these questions need to be asked.
And I'm even
know how much good it does speculating about it. I feel the way you feel. I'm not sure that speculating gets us anywhere. I think it's more important to keep in mind when you're betting the guys that UFC is propping up.
Yeah. It's just scary.
But to be fair, we've talked about this as an angle for a very long time. We talk about going to Brazil and picking Brazilian guys because they will get the nudge if it really is a close fight. We've talked about Texas judging. We've talked about what happens when you go in Asia and whatever. This is an angle that we've used, and we've won money betting with this angle.
It's a glaring problem with the sport, though. Like glaring. Like, for example, as a handicapper, I took Jared Gordon at 2-1. I knew that was extreme value. I took Jared Gordon live after winning the first round, plus 110. The fact that I lost both of those, even though I did everything right, feels like the Barstool guys went into my pocket and just took my money. That's literally what it feels like. I know that's not what happened. It's just, I think you hit it on the head, Dan. You need to have that baked in when you're betting the guys the UFC is propping up, which is counterintuitive to what a lot of betting philosophy is, where you fade the public. I mean, everyone had a ticket on Paddy Pimblett.
And for you listeners, just an update. I have officially sent in my application to the Texas State Athletic Commission, and I am going to be certified by the end of the year as a Texas licensed judge.
That's freaking awesome. That's freaking awesome. The other thing, too, one last thing I want to pull away from this, the thing that really bothered me the most, I knew Paddy Pimblett was a fraud. You knew Paddy Pimblett was a fraud. Kobe knew Paddy Pimblett was a fraud. Now the entire world knows. And our Conor McGregor tax that was applied to Paddy Pimblett, I think if they ran this fight back, I think Jared Gordon is either a very slight dog, 120, 110, or maybe even possibly the favorite.
I agree with you.
So the days of Paddy Auto being minus 250 are behind us, and it pisses me off because it got stolen. Another thing that arguably got stolen. So Jared Gordon, for reference, was minus 300 live going into the decision. For the main event, Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz, going into the decision, Magomed Ankalaev was minus 1450 going to the decision. It ends in a draw. Blachowicz was vocal that he believed Magomed Ankalaev won. Magomed Ankalaev was vocal, was very upset with the decision.
Blachowicz was vocal in the octagon, but after he went back and rewatched the fight, he said that they got it right.
Okay. That does change the opinion. But you never know if his PR guy was like, "Are you an idiot?" But yeah, I mean, you're right. Okay. In the octagon, though, he even gestured towards Ankalaev as in right. Ankalaev wins, ends in a draw. What's your guys' opinion? I had Ankalaev. I felt like the thing that bothered me was that this is now a vacant division still. Title shot already got announced. Jeremy Hill versus
Jamal Hill.
Glover, or Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. And Jamal Hill. Glover.
I thought everything was really weirdly handled. I admittedly was a little bit drunk at this point, so I wasn't paying the closest attention to the scorecard. I don't mind the draw in that sense, but like I said, I wasn't paying the closest attention. What I really minded was the way that Dana and the UFC handled the entire light heavyweight division. I didn't watch that fight and think, what a shitty, terrible fight. Neither of these guys deserve anything. We need to move on. I was really confused by Dana's animosity in the post-fight presser.
The other thing, too, that I felt was very bad practice. Anthony Smith found out that his Jamal Hill fight was off live on air at the UFC post show.
Well, Dana has said for years, he's told people like us in every single post-fight presser, I do not make fights on Saturday night. I do not make future fights on Saturday night. Do not ask me. I do not make future fights on Saturday night.
I don't know if Dana was feeling the heat from the Patty decision and what everyone was saying on social media or this or whatever, but he was very grumpy in that post-fight interview. He was pissed. And
yeah, he jumped all over our boy Alex B. Hoonan for asking a very simple question.
I know, he did. That guy got ripped. I was watching. I was like, geez. Also to save face, I said Jeremy Hill because I've been looking at this card all day. The old running back for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jeremy Hill. I'm selling one of his one-on-ones rookie cards. So obviously I know who Jamal Hill is. Okay. Because you see TikTokers all the time who like speak out their ass and they don't know what they're talking about. So I hope any new listeners, I'm not a fraud. Okay.
Reece, at this point, I think they know we're just idiots and we're not actually, or we're drunk idiots that trip over our words, not idiots that don't know about fights.
I'm fine. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll wear that on my forehead. One more thing. Bellator 289 took place last week. I'm only going to preview the title fights. Magomedov, Dan, fell via guillotine choke in the second round to Patchy Mix. What's your take on that?
Patchy Mix is fucking dangerous. You give him a neck, he'll take it home. And Magomed gave him his neck twice, maybe even 3 times. But there was the guillotine that he was in the first round that he got out of. And you can't keep making mistakes against a guy as dangerous as Patchy Mix. He will end you. He choked him out cold.
First time Magomedov has ever been finished. And I wanted your opinion on it too, because Magomedov has now lost 2 of his last 3, Rafael Stotts and Patchy Mix.
And didn't look good in the one in between.
Enrique Barzola, I was going to say, guillotine choke.
And looked a little bit shaky on the scale. We're at a weird part of Magomed's career.
Are you still a buyer on the 30-year-old Magomedov?
I'm definitely not a seller. I think that at this point I'm still buying. You got to buy the dip. You know more than me, Reece.
Maybe a hold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something to note. He's not the Piotr Jan beater that he was on the regional scene.
No. And then also hats off to Patchy Mix. Very dangerous in his own right. I don't want to take that away from him. Very dangerous guy. So that was a great title fight.
Were those the semifinals?
That one was the.
They could have been the quarterfinals, but we either have Stotts versus Patchy for the belt, or there's more fights. I'm really not sure, but
yeah, I'm not sure. Liz Caramouche, armbar, Juliana Velasquez. Anything you want to add? I mean, Liz Caramouche, ex-UFC vet.
She looked great.
Over the
hump. She really looked phenomenal.
Yeah, she looked good, but to me, it just really shows the skill gap between UFC top tier women and other regional promotions. Just there's less crop. You know what I mean? There's less people that they churn through. Invicta's got a good roster. PFL obviously has a good roster for 55. And then UFC kind of is the kings there. So Liz Caramouche, I'm happy she rebounded. And
those just an update on our last point. Those were the semis. So we've got Patchy Mix versus Rafael Stotts for the belt in the final.
Sweet. And then I actually got to meet both of these guys and watch them go at it. Rafael Stotts defeats Danny Sabatello via decision. It was split. The same judge that fucked the Patty Pimlet somehow gave Danny Sabatello 50-45.
Which is, for me, the worst scorecard of the year. And it's not even close.
It makes legitimately negative sense.
For him to drop that scorecard, get on a plane, fly from, what was it, New Jersey to Vegas, Connecticut to Vegas, Mohegan Sun, and then drop the Paddy Pimblett 29-28.
He needs to be
an
fired.
embarrassment to this sport.
It's bad. But Rafael Stotts looked dominant, said he was going to be dominant, and it looks like the championship for the bracket for 35 will be Stotts via their V Patchy mix, which is as high level of mixed martial arts as it gets. Anything you two gentlemen want to add to that before we move to news and notes? Too long of a pause.
The one thing I want to say is that although this is the last Ankle Pick podcast for a UFC event of the year, we may or may not be doing a bonus episode for the Ryzen v Bellator event at the very end of the year as we continue to bolster up our Bellator coverage. So,
and we also will have
posted for that.
We also will have an award show and some other stuff. So just stay tapped into everything.
But in terms of making money, we will be giving out picks at the very least if we don't have a live episode for that Ryzen v Bellator card.
Yeah, we will be. All right. We need to get to UFC Fight Night, but first, news and notes brought to you by Country Club Sports. Country Club Kobe brings on.
We touched on a handful of these, so I'm going to be a little brief. Let's give a little more light to Glover versus Jamel Hill, January 21st, the very next UFC pay-per-view card for the vacant light heavyweight title.
That's in Brazil, right?
In Brazil for Glover.
I mean, it's beginning to make a lot more sense why Dana pushed for this so much. They needed a main event for that. This is the respect to Glover. They don't owe anything to any fighter necessarily, but the way that Glover's had this resurgence at the end of his career, it would have been sad to see it end just by being passed over for a short notice title fight against Magomed Ankalaev, who is widely considered as one of the most dangerous guys alive. So I'm happy for Glover's sake that this fight is getting made, but I'm frustrated with kind of how it went down.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right. We have, unfortunately, we reported this earlier, but UFC Seoul, which is supposed to be in South Korea in February, is apparently canceled. That is now turned into a fight night card back in the Apex, UFC Vegas 68 that weekend instead. And I think that a lot of that was due to the TKZ injury. I think that they were hoping to have him headline that card, and he's unfortunately not going to be good to go by February. We do have a fight announced for that card, though. Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak will be February 4th in Vegas.
Interesting.
So the reasoning was the lack of filling out a card, not anything.
I think it was a combination. I think they wanted TKZ to headline the Seoul card, and so maybe they'll come back to Seoul by the time they can get TKZ ready to fight again.
Okay. So it was nothing political, right?
I don't believe so. That wasn't.
What about like a TKZ Ilya Topuria main event? Summer?
Why would you make TKZ die in his own home turf? Don't do him like that.
I think that'd be a huge name for Ilya to get next.
No, he's gonna get Paddy next.
I mean, that would have been the fight to make, but like you said when we were breaking down the Paddy fight, or recapping the Paddy fight, the value's gone. That's a fight that was supposed to be even, and now we're getting minus 300 on Ilya Topuria, and it's ridiculous.
Man, the even I would have put.
It would have been even if not. Paddy might have been a favorite if you make that matchup at 282.
I would have literally put all of it.
Talk about a missed opportunity.
Joel Alvarez and Zubaira Tukhugov will be the following week at UFC 284 in Perth.
That's a sweet fight. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it is a sweet fight. I like Joel there quite a bit.
I agree with you.
Here's a beast, though.
Cody Garbrandt making his return. The following pay-per-view will be March 4th, UFC 285 against Julio Arce.
And he's out in Dagestan cross-training with Team Khabib right now. So obviously
Cody is?
Cody's out in Dagestan. But obviously his chin's been his main problem. But I am excited to see a Cody 2.0 version. That guy's always been a nuts athlete. He's always been a really terrific boxer. Let's see if he can.
do not like that matchup for him, though. That's no get back on track, give me matchup. Julio Arce is a dog, dude. He's a dog, and he likes to strike and stand and bang, and he's a dog.
Cody's a dog too.
Cody is a dog. Cody is a dog, but
Cody's a dog too.
you don't say that.
The following weekend after Perth, I'm sorry, not after Perth, after whatever the next UFC 285 is. So we're talking March 11th. We're back in Vegas for the UFC, but it was announced that it's not in the Apex. It's at the Virgin Hotel Theater. So we're going to have a fight night card there. That one was supposed to be headlined by Anthony Smith, Jamel Hill. Obviously, that's not happening. I'm looking at Tapology now, and it looks like we definitely don't have main card fights for that one yet, but Cedric Dumas and Abu Azatar, and then Lucas Brzeski and Carl Williams are the only 2 fights announced on that one. But happening in Vegas.
Cedric Dumas. What happened to Cedric Doumbé? He was supposed to fight in France and just never did. Sorry, that was a complete tangent.
That's all I know.
Kobe, do you know you're my Vegas guy? Do you know is the Virgin, is that on the Strip? Is this like
it's closer to the airport than the Strip? It used to be the Hard Rock.
Okay.
I was going to ask, are fans in attendance?
Yep. They have a capacity of like 6,000, which is, 5,000 more than the Apex and much less than T-Mobile.
It used to be the Hard Rock. That's where Tupac was the night he died. He was gambling, pissing people off, doing a rock stuff.
The moment I turned 21, I was in the Hard Rock Casino.
You and Tupac, one of you died that night.
All right, one more fight to announce and one more last piece of news, but March 18th in London, UFC 286 just announced today, Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze.
Oh, wow. Banger of a fight.
That is a banger of a fight. Wow. I don't even know who I like there.
Marvin's going to be favored.
I assume
Roman is a live dog.
Wow. And that's
Roman's a live dog versus anyone in the world. You put Roman in a fist fight with Ngannou and Pavlovich at the same time. I'm saying that Roman's got a chance.
Roman, with the way he rolls, he might have a chance.
Last piece of news, UFC returning to San Antonio, Texas, March 25th. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be in attendance, but I think that you guys, at least one of you, will be there.
I will certainly be in the building. Come say hi if you're a listener. Hopefully Reece will be there, and maybe Parker, if we can convince Parquito to make the trip. He had a lot of fun at UFC Austin, so it's on the board.
That's all I got.
Okay. I think it's safe to say we can move on to UFC Fight Night 212 or 217.
66 is what I think.
UFC Vegas 66.
Okay, UFC Vegas 66 in the Apex this Saturday. The card starts at 3 p.m. Should be done around that like 9-ish time. So get ready for an early.
It's a little bit of an early one, Reece.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Not as bad as it's been, but it's a little bit.
That'll be a nice mixture of sports now that there's no college football and we've got some Saturday NFL to go with our violence.
I will say, too, something that's going to get a lot of juices flowing. This is a stacked card top to bottom. The second fight on this card is crazy, but this curtain jerker, Sergey Morozov versus Journey Newsom. Sergey Morozov in the curtain jerker. Anyway, crazy. He's minus 300 here. Journey Newsom plus 250. Sergey Morozov opened at minus 200, and it came down hard to 250. It actually came back up into the 230s and now back down all the way to 300. Look, my opinion on this is Journey Newsom is, I feel like we haven't seen enough of him. He's only had a couple UFC fights, all maybe once a year max. And he got finished by Randy Costa, a guy who has shown little to no promise after that said knockout. And Morozov, to me, I know he had a bad outcome against Douglas De Silva Andrade. I know he had a bad outcome against Umar Nurmagomedov, but so does everybody. But I think like the Julian Paivas of the world, even the Kali Tajas of the world are probably a step up from Journey Newsom. I don't want to pay the minus 300, but I would be shocked if Morozov didn't win.
Yeah, I am hesitant to even throw him in parlays though, because of like what you said with the Douglas Silva de Andrade fight. He's a guy that, and even the Paiva fight, Morozov, as well-rounded and as good of a wrestler as he is, he fights close fights, and he tends to fight down to his opponent's skill level, which is a tough trend or trait to have. I do think that he's got all the advantages here. Newsom's a boxing transition guy. It's still doesn't have that instinct when it comes to MMA that guys like Morozov have. It's just a tough spot to be backing a minus 300 guy that tends to fight down and start slow.
I couldn't agree more to what you're saying. I mean, Morozov most likely is the spot here, but any value that you had on the skill differential has come and gone.
He was 10 times more skilled than Douglas Silva de Andrade. Wanted to get into the firefight, didn't want to wrestle, gassed, and got knocked out.
And Journey Newsom is a guy who also kind of stands in the pocket, has a lot of power, very built. Like he's kind of like a little muscle hamster. So I think a layoff is really the only way to play that one. David Dvorak, 20-4, taking on Manel Kape. A lot of people have him, Kape, being poised as the future belt holder of this division. And the line suggests the same. Kape minus 250, David Dvorak plus 210. It opened at Kape minus 160 and has got
former Rising belt holder, came into the UFC with a whole lot of hype. Dropped his first two really at his own fault. Just
and the Pantoja one, Pantoja in particular, you can't be mad about because he arguably should be fighting for a belt.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, yeah, Pantoja's at the top of the division, and Matus is a very, very skilled fighter. Has a win over Dvorak too. But honestly, I think that win over Dvorak is playing into this line a little too much. I think that if that fight goes the other way or even is a little bit different, if one of those Nicolau punches don't sting Dvorak wins, and we're looking at a very differently lined fight with a one in front of it and whatever. I do think that there's a lot of value here on the Dvorak side. He's got a great calf kick game. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and I think that his use of kicks is going to slow down a guy like Kape, who has been a victim of having low output in the past. And if you stifle the power of a guy who's low output, it's not a great recipe.
Gas tank 2 for Dvorak. If he can endure maybe the first round, the jumping knee attacks, the power punches, it could be one of those 10-9 in the first for Kape, and then Dvorak just climbs back from sheer volume. So are you going to have a play here, Dan?
I'm going to play Dvorak. It's probably not going to be huge. The biggest I would go is probably 2x, but there will be a play on my board for David Dvorak.
Yeah, I might be passing. I don't know. That it's close. If I had to pick a side though, with the line, I lean the Dvorak side. Brian Battle take it on Renat Fakhretdinov. And Fakhretdinov, I imagine, is a sizable favorite here. It's
not as large as you would think.
You're right. It's not. He's minus 145. Brian Battle plus 125. The line opened at Fakhretdinov minus 150. And it basically went from minus 150 to even. So the December 13th, 14th, you could have gotten this at even. Or December 12th. And by the time we're recording today on the 15th, it's back at like the 150, 145 marker.
Heard a lot of chatter on Battle also on Twitter.
In what regard?
People wanting to bet him.
Really?
It's an interesting matchup. We saw Renat get a lot of hype coming in. and ultimately show that he's a great wrestler. He has great top control, but not much else. And Battle, as much as I've been wrong about him, has proven to be someone with elite cardio. That's what, for me, his best weapon. But someone that has great footwork, someone that is a decent wrestler in terms of takedown defense. And I think someone who's going to be by far the better striker.
Well, the thing with Battle that I love is he was the last pick on the Ultimate Fighter. He consistently proved everybody wrong, beat Andre Petrovsky. If there was a line for that fight and it wasn't on the show, Petrovsky would have been minus 300 plus. And wins against Gilbert Urbina on short notice. Then Tresean Gore comes in. And you got to remember, these fights are at 85. Brian Battle conditioned himself, lost a lot of that extra weight, fighting at 170 now. Is this fight at 170 or 185?
This is 70.
So you're going to have a guy whose frame is significantly bigger. And I actually max bet him against Takashi Sato, and I didn't even have the opportunity to sweat it out because he finished him so instantly. So my initial reaction would be Renat Fakhretdinov is going to kind of wet blanket him, just smother him on the mat.
Wrestle fuck.
So I guess, Dan, can you play devil's advocate? Is there a way that you can tell me that won't happen?
I'm going to stay away from this one with my own money,
Okay.
But what I'll tell you is a realistic path to victory is Battle stuffs a few takedowns, and all of a sudden Renat's not in his own department.
His
Domicile. The 3Ds. I think that if Battle can stay on his feet, he touches Fakhretdinov up. But that's a big if.
Yeah,
really big if.
This is really going to be an interesting one because obviously the welterweight division's stacked and deep, but these guys are those guys that are kind of like on the outside of that top 20 area, top 25. And this really will have an impact on their trajectory because they're both, I imagine, are pretty high level as far as prospects go, very highly regarded. So this is an underrated banger. I'm excited to see the outcome. Every time I see this name, I think Miesha Tate. Kobe, you mind taking a stab at this? Is it Danny Ma? I think
Mahasate.
What is it?
Mahasate.
So Miesha Tate versus Mahashate versus Rafa Garcia. Mahashate is plus 115. Rafa Garcia minus 135. Opened at Rafa Garcia, Mahashate minus 110 each way. So it was a pick'em. And if you want to call it sharp money, seems to be on the side of Rafa Garcia.
I tend to agree with the movement, I think.
Wow. And that's not easy saying I'm about to go back Rafa Garcia
especially as someone who lost money on that Gritzmacher fight.
Which is dumb that happened.
Ridiculously a bad loss on the record.
Is it the age factor? Is it the experience factor? Is it a stylistic factor? I mean, Rafa Garcia leans on his wrestling, and he has more fights in the UFC by a good margin. It's like 5.
It's a stylistic factor for me.
Okay.
Mahashate is a great striker, very young, very promising. He's big for lightweight. I don't think Rafa's going to give him room. And when Rafa has cardio to back up his game plan of dog after a bone, not giving you space, lean on you, move forward, pressure, takedown, multiple takedowns in every fight. If that cardio holds up, that's an unbelievable recipe to stifle a guy who's green and only really has one path to victory in the striking realm.
It's just weird because if you're losing to Nasrat, who obviously is very talented, but more from a stylistic standpoint, the Gritzmacher loss is hard to brush over.
The Gritzmacher one, I think I've thrown out. Not I think. For my personal analysis, I threw it out. Yeah, it's an outlier. It was the only time we saw his gas tank just drop out. Absolutely drop out. But I think he outperformed the number both against Nasrat and Drakkar Klose. He smoked Jesse Ronson.
Yeah. Would have been a weight issue.
Natan Levy had a ton of issues, really didn't get anything off in that fight. And we saw how dangerous that guy is.
Yeah.
I think that Rafa's got a good
yeah.
price.
So are you going to be on the Rafa side?
I think I will be.
Okay.
Similarly to what was it that I said before, the Dvorak? It's going to be small, probably not multiple units, but I will be on the Rafa side.
So far,
certain.
I have not had a play. Dan smells too. Said Nurmagomedov taking on Sayubakar Kakramanov. Kakramanov is minus 120. Said plus 100. Dan stole the point on Set the Spread for me. I had Said as a sizable favorite. Said opened at minus 150. Kakramanov has gotten all the action. I have taped this one thoroughly, and I have not come to the side of Kakramanov. I have come to the side of a pass. I think both of these gentlemen are way too dangerous to comfortably back a set side.
And it's a fun stylistic matchup.
It is. It is. Do you have a lean here?
My lean is the Kakramanov side. I agree with the way that the line is moved. I'm not going to play this one. The lean is more so on the stylistic matchup of I would take the grappler over the striker. And as much as Said has the name Nurmagomedov, he doesn't have that Nurmagomedov fight style. He's more along the line of like
spin kicks.
Yeah, like tag fighter, like Zabit.
Kumar, yeah.
And he's really dynamic, really creative, a lot of different weapons in that striking realm. He'll have more output, but I do think that Kakramanov is by far the better wrestler. And I think he's really strong.
But like Stamen was a wrestler, got guillotined.
But Ronnie Lawrence is a wrestler and got ragdolled by Kakramanov. I think that we're seeing some levels. Ronnie Lawrence is a guy I was all about, and I was excited to back going forward. Kakramanov made him look like he didn't belong.
Yeah, which is no easy feat. So it ultimately is a pass for you as well?
Yeah, it's ultimately a pass.
Okay. Julian Marquez against Duran Wynn. The fact that this is ahead of
this one got canceled.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Canceled today.
Oh, it's on Tapology
still. Duran Wynn had a accident in the PI today where he fell down some stairs and.
Yeah, he said he fainted and fell down some stairs.
Okay, so.
Or in that same post. Maybe he fainted down the stairs.
I stepped in a puddle today and I was like, I am having the worst day today. Well, Duran Wynn takes the cake. Hope he does. I hope he recovers. And then obviously
that puddle wasn't some ice.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So maybe a Mario Kart banana peel. No. So Duran Wynn, Julian Marquez, ignore me. That is off. We'll move up to Jake Matthews versus Matt Senzelberger. And this one's also kind of a banger, but I would be shocked. Yeah. Jake Matthews minus 280. Matthew Senzelberger plus 235. Jake Matthews opened at minus 220 and has been smashed. Look, I've been high on Jake Matthews for a while, the Celtic kid, and a lot of people weren't. And I think the Andre Fiallo fight was the best performance I've ever seen out of him. Was a crazy coming out party. And when you look on the flip side of Senzelberger, you're looking at a guy who has there is a clear path to victory to beat him, and Alex Morono exploited that just recently. So I think Jake Matthews could be a play at 280. I never advise laying, 300 to win 105 or 110 or whatever. I think you can comfortably parlay this piece though, Dan. I
agree with you.
Yeah, I'll have money on Jake Matthews in some way, shape, or form.
The spot that I'm looking at more so is the over 2.5. I think that we see Jake Matthews get back to his roots. He's someone that came into this sport. I mean, you know this, but he's someone that came into the sport with a huge grappling foundation and is really just starting to put everything together with his striking. Obviously, he looked unreal versus Fiallo, but Fiallo is one of those guys we kind of sniffed out as he's here because he's dangerous. One punch, knockout power, beat some bums on short notice, but has he ever really been UFC level? And whatever, that striking performance was awesome, but it doesn't tell me that Jake Matthews is an elite striker. I think that he wrestles here. I think that he gets back to his bread and butter, dominates Semmelsberger in the wrestling department. But I think that because of that, Semi is also a very capable jiu-jitsu practitioner. We're not going to get a sub. I like the over 2.5. sitting at minus 150.
See,
And I think that'll be on my card.
I don't love that from an aspect of, I think both of these men are dangerous. Semselberger is massive for 170, like absolutely massive. And although he only has 2 finishes out of his, four UFC wins, half finishes, but they're first round right crosses. I mean, it is Jason Witt, Martin Sano, but he has the power. And then Jake Matthews obviously has the ability to finish on the feet and on the ground. I don't hate the play. I think both of these guys' best path to victory usually is on this, leans the side of unanimous decision. It's just scary for me to pay the 150 on 2 guys who are dangerous. They're capable. But if your read is correct and it's just iron sharpening iron in the grappling standpoint, people staying in guard for a little bit, both of these guys are good enough at jiu-jitsu to not get subbed. Both these guys are good enough at wrestling to get up, maybe work it back down, sit in the clinch for a while. And if that's the case, Dan, you're going to have a sweat-free ticket, which is very possible. You just don't.
I like a lot of the dogs and a lot of the overs on this card.
You just don't want to see the standing.
It's a weird combo.
You don't want to see the standing and banging, Dan. If Semselberger and Jake Matthews just sit there in the pocket.
If I'm wrong about Jake Matthews' approach here,
yeah,
I'm way wrong about this bet.
And that's worth disclaiming, I think. But you could be dead on. It could be the easiest ticket, too. We'll see. All right, prelim capper. Mary Velismus, Cheyenne Velismus, or Cheyenne Bays, formerly known as RIP.
Cheyenne Delidze.
Cheyenne Delidze, also known as, is taking on Corey McKenna, Team Alpha Male prodigy. Ugh. And nothing against Corey McKenna, everything against Team Alpha Male. Mary Velismus, minus 180. Corey McKenna, plus 155. Is opened at Mary
Velismus side.
It is opened at Mary Velismus, plus 125, Dan. And it's gotten smashed.
I think I said at the beginning of the year, you won't catch me dead betting a woman's favorite. And I almost made it at the end of the year. I think I'll be on Velismus here. I love the Velismus side. I don't see her getting taken down multiple times, and that's the only way Corey McKenna is going to win this fight.
Look, Corey McKenna's undersized, 23, and trains at Team Alpha Male. Yes.
It's going to be Mary Velismus for all, and to all, good night.
It's the holiday season. We're all going to have a great Velismus. But the other thing, too, is assuming outside of, intimacy, she's rolled around with Delidze, she could have some new tricks up that sleeve, too. She might not get
she is herself a very capable grappler. In the Montserrat Ruiz fight, obviously, those head and arm throws were just something that she did not have an answer for. But it wasn't exactly traditional wrestling that got the job done or that got her to the mat. I don't see Corey McKenna having the same kind of success getting Cheyenne Velismus.
The other thing, too, is just the size. Ruiz is so much stronger. McKenna is someone who could be fighting at Adam if the UFC had it. She's small.
And her reach is like tiny. She's a T-Rex out there.
Yeah, and then add the Team Alpha Male. I might find myself on Mary Velismus, too, but small, because she's a home wrecker, and that's a thing. Cody Brundage, Dan's favorite ankle lock, I believe, against Michelle Oleksiejczuk. Cody Brundage wasn't the one who fucked us, or was it?
No, he didn't fuck us. We bet him against Gore, and he got the knockout.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we ankle locked it.
Oh, okay. I thought he fucked us. No, Cody Brundage.
Another Trayshawn Gore fight, Josh Friend.
My friend, and they have the same build. My bad. Cody Brundage is in good standings with the ankle pickers. Cody Brundage versus Michelle Oleksiejczuk. And Michelle is minus 275. Cody Brundage plus 230. Line opened at Michelle Oleksiejczuk minus 225. So 10% movement in that direction. 225 now sits at 275.
And I'm going to be honest, that surprised me, all of it.
Yeah.
Stylistically, they're favoring the striker over the grappler significantly.
Yep.
Brundage can wrestle.
And Michel is a phenomenal striker. The thing is, and it's always been the thing, he's disgustingly undersized for middleweight. I mean,
and his cardio is not 100%. It's questionable.
He probably walks around at 85, legitimately. And I don't know if I ankle locked it, but I definitely bet Dustin Jacoby against him from a size perspective, even though stylistically, obviously, Jacoby's going to stand and bang there. But Cody Brundage is definitely a live dog. I'm not saying I'm running out there to bet him, but he is definitely a live dog.
Was that Jacoby fight when Jacoby fought like injured, like he didn't throw a single kick?
I can't remember.
I think that was last March.
I can't remember. The fight
was a weird fight.
Yeah, that was a weird fight.
I'm on the Brundage side too.
Yeah, Brundage is, in my opinion, the only real play here. I would be shocked if someone confidently was betting Michel, an undersized striking middleweight at that.
I do think he's the more dangerous fighter. If this is going to be 15 minutes of striking,
I think
want my money on the Oleg Jacek side. Yeah. But it's a mixed martial arts fight, and Cody Brundage could wrestle. Not an entirely elite wrestler, but he can wrestle.
I think when you say skill set too, not just striking, but just skill sets in general, like Oleksiejczuk is probably the better overall mixed martial artist. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. It's more just like 6 foot 72 inches and he's muscular as shit. I guess, dude, Oleksiejczuk is 6 foot 74 inches. It honestly might not. It might just be a muscular thing. Brundage just might be like stronger, but the size itself isn't actually there. That's interesting. I don't know. I'm not paying the juice on the Michel side. So potentially a Brundage spot.
Yeah, and it's not sniffing a parlay either.
No, absolutely not. Drew Dober, Bobby Green. That's going to be an underrated banger. Drew Dober minus 150, Bobby Green plus 130. Drew Dober opened at 110 each way, and the bettors have smashed it in his favor. I get pretty good reads on Bobby Green. His head movement is very unique, unlike any other. Very, very good distance management. And he has a hard style to train for because his hands are always at his hips. He throws at weird angles. Drew Dober on the other side, obviously we know what he's all about. He's game. He's got a granite chin. He stands in the pocket.
His Muay Thai is terrific.
Muay Thai is terrific.
Trains at elevation.
Yeah.
Capable grappler.
The way I look at it is I think this one goes over. I think this one is a decision, and I think that Drew Dober lands the harder shots with more volume. Bobby Green's 36. I guess Drew Dober is 34, but yeah, I lean the Dober side, and I might find myself there.
I also like the over.
I could
for some reason I tend to lean Bobby Green, and I agree with you that exactly like you said. Bobby Green volume, Dober bigger moments. Dober's going to have the power. Dober's probably going to make more of a statement in the judge's eyes. Bobby Green is game. Guys like Fiziev failed to get Bobby's respect through a 15-minute fight.
Yeah, I called that, but this is a different type of strike because Fiziev works at range, and that's where Bobby Green's best because he relies on head movement. I think Drew Dober is going to try to cut the cage off and make it so that Bobby Green's head movement doesn't even matter. I'm keeping you in a square the size of a phone booth. And
that'll be a tough spot for Bobby to be in.
I also want to mention that
he's a guy who fights close fights with guys better than him consistently. And I'm not so sure that Drew Dober is on the same level as a
he also fights
Fiziev, Thiago Moises, Nasrat, Islam.
Down. He's a guy who almost lost to Clay Guida. I mean, he fights down. He's willing to, if he gets taken down, he will sit on the bottom. Like, Bobby Green is not a guy who's gunning for the title. He's gunning to just fight. And that's fine. But, like, it's similar to Kevin Holland in my mind. I think that if he gets taken down by Dober, let's say, he might accept that bottom position.
I'd love that because I will be on the over in this one.
So over
You
two and
look
a
at a
half.
guy like Bobby Green, and to knock him out, you have to be Dustin Poirier. That's the only guy in the world who's ever knocked him out.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Drew Dober does.
No, Drew Dober does not. He's over. The over 2.5 is -180, and the fight to go to decision is -150 over on DraftKings. Do you have a preference?
I'll probably be on the 2.5 at like the 175,
Yeah,
180.
180. Okay. Can't hurt. Okay, this is a battle of I don't even know what. Alex Caceres is fighting Julian Erosa at 145. Juicy J Erosa -170. Alex Caceres +145. This opened at Juicy J Erosa -150. I mean, stylistically speaking, this is just like long, rangy, Ultimate Fighter veterans squaring off. That's what this is.
Yeah, I really, really struggle to get any kind of read on this. Both of these fighters aren't people who I think have any shot at climbing the ranks and really challenging for a title ever. I do think that the Juicy J performance against Dawodu was maybe the best performance I've ever seen from him. And so you can either take that as some recency bias going into this line, or you can take this as, oh, we've got a new version of Juicy J. And against a guy with as many question marks as Alex Caceres, I can't bring myself to land on either of those. This is a total pass for me. Maybe the over. I know I keep saying the overs and then the dogs tonight, but maybe the over. I don't see either guy getting a finish.
Over 2.5 -175, fight to go decision plus or -150. So very similar to the last one. I do think that if someone were to get finished, it would be Juicy J finishes Alex Caceres. Powers on Juicy J's side, but grappling's on Alex Caceres' side.
Juicy J also has a little bit of that like Dom Cruz or even a little bit of Bobby Green, like hands by his side, footwork, weird movement. Like, what if he just like walks into a kick? I don't know. Like, to me, there's so many questions about this fight, and I've got no answers. No answers.
This is like a battle of guys who are masters of none. You know what I mean? It's like they're just good.
Very much. That's a great call.
They're masters of none. They're just good, kind of just good. I mean, Juicy J's had a great resurgence. He got cut by the UFC, and then he's come back and has looked great. I lean the Juicy J side. Not dying to pay 180 Juice. I'm passing.
Yeah.
Amir Albazi is taking on Alessandro Costa at flyweight, and Amir Albazi is -410. Costa +330. Dan's rumors might be correct. We'll see. The way I look at it is this, and it's simple, really. You have a guy in Amir Albazi who is probably the best or close to the best jiu-jitsu practitioner on the entire roster. Do you disagree with me? You made a face.
I did make a face. I didn't peg him as that. You think so?
Amir Albazi?
Just from him running through Frankie Fig, and
he's a world champion jiu-jitsu practitioner. Amir Albazi is.
I'm not sure about the entire roster.
Well, irregardless, his grappling prowess then for 25ers. I mean,
I'm not. Don't take this as me not saying that he's terrific. He's an incredible jiu-jitsu practitioner. I reacted to maybe the best on the roster.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Yeah, best on the roster was hyperbolic. But let me ask you a question. What is Costa's path to victory, if there is one?
This is tough to say because it's going to sound like I'm not doing my due diligence as a handicapper. I didn't watch the tape, but his best path to victory is this fight is at 125. There's a whole lot of variability there. And maybe he catches Amir Albazi because, like you said, I don't think Costa subs him. I don't think that it's any kind of accumulation of anything that causes Albazi to lose this fight. But this is the most dangerous sport, and in a half a second, your lights could be out. And so that's what I'll tell you is the most realistic path to victory. I don't see that happening this weekend specifically.
So obviously 410's out of question, but
you know what's crazy, Reece, is I'm looking at the over again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean 125 is always safe. I mean, if you're gonna place an over, 125 is the best spot to do it.
Not to mention, we've got ourselves a little bit, not quite, but a little bit of a heavyweight number here. There are people like you that are looking at Amir Albazi just running through Malcolm Gordon and running through Frankie Figueiredo, and they think he's going to get his hands on Costa and find the sub. And if he doesn't, he should be better at striking. And we've got a 1.5 over with a -170, -180.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's the sub threat from Amir.
It 100% is. And I think that that's a little bit overblown. I do think that a guy that's as capable as Costa is just not going to be as capable as Costa in the jiu-jitsu is not going to be run through in that department. I like the over 1.5 here, 7.5 minutes of flyweight fighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially given the fact that their scrambles are crazy. You have a Brazilian on the other side. I'm shocked it's at 1.5. I instantly assumed 2.5. Okay. Co-main event, but the best fight on the card. Arman Tsarukyan versus Damir Ismagulov, 18-3 versus 24-1.
And they're killing me with this. We need 5 rounds of this fight. How is this not the main event? We need 5 rounds of this fight.
Yeah, it should be the main event. Absolute robbery. Arman,
you think Sean Strickland and Jared want to fight for 5 rounds? No, those guys are fine fighting 3.
Yeah, they are.
Round. Come on.
We got robbed. Arman Tsarukyan -190, Damir Ismagulov +160. Arman Tsarukyan opened at -225, so it's come down. It has seen as high as 225 is the highest it's been. It got as low as like the 160s, but it's peaking back at around 190. I mean, for me, Dan, you know where I'm at on this. It's the same place I'm always at with Arman. All right, so you lose to Mateusz Gamrot. I scored it for him, though. And you lose to Islam Makhachev, and you lose your first fight ever, or your second fight ever. Okay, great. Cool. Damir Ismagulov, obviously extremely talented in his own right. Very rangy fighter, very long for lightweight. I get it. I would be shocked if Arman doesn't just wrestle fuck the shit out of him. I would be shocked.
I'm going to be honest. I started where you are.
Oh, no.
I'm not playing this. Don't take this as a
okay. I'm not playing it either.
Whatever.
Okay.
But I'm really leaning towards the Damir side at this number. And here's what I'll lay out for you. I agree with everything you said. Arman is the real deal. Arman's losses are extremely forgivable against the best talent that there is at his division, period.
Okay. So far, so good. We agree.
Damir is also terrific, and specifically terrific when it comes to the grappling. And what we saw in that Mateusz fight.
Now, how do you say that? That
he's not the same kind of. Did we lose Reece?
We did lose Reece, but keep going on Damir.
Yeah, he's not the same kind of top pressure, wet blanket, Dagestani style that we're used to in terms of grappling. But in a situation here where I do favor him in the stand-up, I think that he's more than capable of scrambling with Arman in the same way that Mateusz was, and having his moments. And I think that if this fight is standing for 15 minutes, Damir will win. And obviously that's a huge if against one of the best grapplers in the world in Arman Tsarukyan. Huge if. But I think we learned from Mateusz, and then succinctly from, not succinctly, but what's the word that means like then after, from the Dariush fight, is that maybe we weren't watching the 2 best grapplers in the world at 155 in Arman versus Mateusz. And maybe that there is another level that Arman needs to get to.
It's so hard to believe. And Arman's reaction to losing to Mateusz is unlike I've ever seen before. It was sheer disappointment. I wouldn't be surprised if he slept in the gym for the next 4.5 weeks. I just look like I think that the price tag is off. I will absolutely give you that. But I don't think Demir has faced one iota of the type of grappling he's about to.
I am just not so sure of that. He's a guy who absolutely ran through Joel Alvarez, ran through Thiago Moises, I won't say ran through.
Beat Garam.
Rafael Alves. He's a very dangerous fighter that fights in a lot of close fights. You're going to give me double my money in a department where I do think that if this fight, and I said this to Kobe, it's a huge if. Demir wins this fight if it's a striking battle for 15 minutes. I think that he can scramble well enough to stay on his feet for long enough.
Take it.
It's scaring me off the Armin side. If I was here to pick winners, I'd be all over Armin. I'm here to find value.
Okay, so I want to see on bettipsmma.dankwagers/Longhorns. I want to see Demir at plus 160.
You may see it. I won't be goaded into it right now, but I do think that there's a ton of value on the Demir side. And if I was picking a winner, I would pick the Armin side. But Demir's got real paths to victory. He's as tough as they come. He's hard to take down and keep down. And he's very capable wherever this fight goes.
Okay. I don't disagree that he's capable wherever this fight goes. I just think that, like, kind of like what we say all the time, there are levels to this. And I hold Armin in such a high regard. It feels like a gift when there's not a 2 in front of his name.
This might have been right before you log back on, but in terms of those levels, did you reevaluate anything after watching Mateusz fail to take down Benny Dariush? Like, and genuinely fail, had zero success grappling Benny. And we saw Armin and Mateusz go back and forth like they were absolute titans in the scrambling department. And we thought that we did. And I thought that was the best grappling performance and the highest level of grappling that lightweight has to offer. And then all of a sudden, Benny Dariush is saying, not even close.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I don't even really have an answer for you, honestly. It could be just as simple as Dariush presents a different style. It could be.
No, you're right. It could be as simple as that. But I look at these numbers and I like this is Magulov's side.
Okay. And I respect that. Main event, Jared Cannonier is taking on Sean Strickland, arguably the soundbite king. The line is -110 on the dot each way. And it fits a lot with what Danny and I have kind of been saying, even on Set the Spread, is it's like there's so many different ways that each of these gentlemen can win. It opened at Jared Cannonier -150. It's now even money. It's an absolute pick 'em. So I'm going to ask you, Dan, pick one. Pick 'em. Who do you like to?
I'm going to start with my breakdown.
Okay.
Because you've got Sean Strickland, who's just impossible to trust. He loves to fight. He's a fighter's fighter.
He's a maniac.
He doesn't game plan. He has very low fight IQ.
He's a maniac.
He's going to engage in a firefight. He will take this fight to wherever Jared wants to take the fight because he's, like you said, he's a maniac.
Okay.
But I think I lean the Strickland side. He's going to get in Jared's face. He's going to have more volume. He's not going to be affected by Jared's punching. I think that we're getting a little bit of some recency bias value here because of the Pereira fight. No one's standing in front of Pereira for 15 minutes without eating a left hook. And I know that it looked brutal because Sean looked brutal that night. But Jared Cannonier is not Alex Pereira in no way, shape, or form. He's just not. And I don't expect this fight to take any grappling. I do expect it to be on the feet the whole time. And I lean the volume of Sean Strickland at even money.
Does grappling come into play?
I don't think so at all. And that's
Okay.
part of where my lean is. I'm not excited to bet this one. I probably won't play it in all honesty. I think I'll just watch the last fight of the year and hope for a knockout, hope for violence. But I do lean the Strickland side.
I can get behind that. If there's no grappling involved, no clinch work, Sean Strickland is more technical and I would be shocked if he didn't piece him up on the feet. I'm also not super worried about Cannonier's power or output. And so I think that if it does go to the cards, which the lack thereof power kind of makes you think, I think Strickland's style leans to getting that done. So I'm with you. I think I'm Team Strickland here.
Plus, I think that, let's say the optics of that Pereira fight weren't as bad. Let's say it's a whatever 30-24, 3-10-8 round, and Alex Pereira dominates him but doesn't get the finish. I think Strickland's like a -150 favorite. -145.
Yeah, I agree. Closer to where it opened. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. So, Dan, best bets on the card. I mean, this card's not great for locks. I don't know if we really zoned in on any.
I'm on a lot of overs. I'm on a lot of dogs. I will certainly be on Dvorak, Rafa Garcia. Probably an over in the Matthews for small, an over for Caceres or Rosa for larger. And then maybe a sprinkle on Demir, but that one doesn't feel it, like you're alluding to, it really doesn't feel good, and you don't feel like a winner betting against Arman Tsarukyan. I know we cast our Gamrot tickets with similar logic, but he's a baller. That guy is as good as they come.
Okay. I could get behind that. I think I'm eyeing right now Arman if the number gets a little better. Jake Matthews in some way, shape, or form. And outside
and Blismus. I forgot to add Blismus.
Oh, Blismus too.
She'll be on my card in some way, shape, or form.
Blismus. All right. Well, Dan and I will get to the kitchen and cook up an ankle lock. Until
really important ankle lock.
A very important ankle lock. Until then, feel free to follow us on all forms of social, and especially TikTok, or not TikTok, Twitter, because of the fact that that is where the juice will be. All plays will be over on Twitter, which coincides with the links to betmma.tips.
Our third-party tracker. And while you're watching, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. It really does mean a ton to us. It helps with the algorithm a crazy amount. And yeah, we really appreciate y'all's support.
Yeah, and we notice every single one. I mean, we went up 2 subscribers the other day, and Dan and I still haven't stopped talking about it. So good stuff. Appreciate y'all. Kobe, hit us with the poha.
Well, more content to come later in the year. We're not done this year. We've got plenty more coming, so stay tuned. And in the meantime, poha!
Poha.